Okay, ladies, thank you for joining us today. It is officially Thrive Thursday. I'm Laura Brandao, and today we have three guests who are going to share with us how they have adapted to the new world and are now thriving. Let's meet our guests. From San Jose, California, we have Wendy Silveira. She is a gardening guru, an author, and a blogger. From Hawaii, our first person from Hawaii, we have Vi Ma. She is a virtual assistant mentor. And from Maryland, we have Camille Jenkins. She is a dynamic leader, diversity and inclusion professional, and a healer. Okay, Wendy, you are going to kick it off for us. Take us back. We know pretty much a year ago, in March of 2020, we all experienced a large amount of change and adaptation. And with that adaptation, things adjusted in our lives. And we have now come through that into a moment in time where things are different. What we'd like to hear from all of you is, what were those adjustments? And if I was to take out my magic wand right now and take you back to 2019, what would you not give up that you have now adjusted to doing because you realize it is the way to proceed forward?
Can I start?
You're up.
All right. Well, hello, Laura. Thank you for having me. As my mom taught me to say many years ago, if I look back on 2020, I know a lot of people go, oh my God, 2020. I was really blessed. It always makes me think of that old adage in English. It's an ill wind that blows somebody some good. And I was one of the blessed ones, one of the fortunate ones that I found an alternative route. Now, I know a lot of my friends moaned that they were so bored. I have to say that I could not say that for a moment. I almost longed to be bored. But let me give you some background. I'm a teacher of many years, and I'm, as you can hear from the accent, I'm not from California, I'm from South Africa. So come every summer, I make the 27-hour great trek to South Africa to visit my family. My mom is 97, still going strong. I have wonderful genes, thank goodness. Anyway, come the pandemic, of course, it put the kibosh on things, and there was no question of travel. So here I am with 9 glorious weeks, and I'm thinking, what shall I do when my husband enters the picture and says, you know, a funny thing happened. I've been going through my computer, and he was cleaning up his bookmarks, and everybody doing their cleaning up, etc., and so was he. And he said, I came across this bookmark, and I was sure it wouldn't still be, you know, going strong after all these years, because it went back to 2013. And the long and the short of it is very much going strong. And of course, the bookmark was for the best-selling author program that Michelle Culp, your guest from last week, puts on. So he said to me, how about writing, you got these 9 weeks, how about writing that gardening book I've always wanted you to write? And I went, oh, I don't know, you know, my 9 glorious weeks, I could see them disappearing before my eyes. Anyway, we got in touch with Michelle, and she said, well, what do you want to write about? And my passion has been gardening since I was 11. And I said, well, you know, I love the style of English cottage garden plants, and that's the style I'd like to write about. So she said, well, let me check. And she has all sorts of magical software at her fingertips. So she came back and she said, you know, that's a real niche market. You're not going to sell any books to anybody, really. There just isn't a demand for it. And her program is best-selling author program. So she said, but how do you feel about writing a book about raised beds and container gardening? Well, I mean, we've been doing it for years, but quite honestly, I've never thought about writing a book about it. It didn't sound quite as glamorous as, you know, peonies or cottage gardens. And then we said, well, let me think about it. And then as we as I and many people were doing, walking our poor dogs like crazy around the
Yep.
neighborhood, with all the memes of the poor exhausted dogs hiding away, we would notice how all of a sudden there'd be activity in the front garden, and then boom, like magic, a raised bed would just appear. And I said to Jim, hold on a moment, maybe Michelle's onto something. And little did we know that this was the biggest trending topic in gardening at the moment.
Look at that.
And if it hadn't been for the pandemic, and so-called pandemic gardening is what they've actually come to call it, because people weren't commuting, they had more time, they were at home anyway, so they had the time to garden, and so raised beds were sort of the big thing. So we did some research, and eventually we committed, and her program is essentially 3 months to write the book, which initially wasn't going to be quite that long. It grew as we went along. And this is how I came to write this book over here. It's the container. I don't know if you can see it.
That is awesome.
And raised bed gardening for beginners and beyond. We, as I said, we had done it for absolutely ages. And it also put me in mind of victory gardening. Now, you're probably way too young to remember that. Well, you wouldn't remember it, but maybe you've heard of it. Victory gardening took place during the Second World War, and I believe even the First World War, where people were encouraged to produce their own vegetables and fruit, etc. So here I am. I've got a set period of time, because school goes back in August. And at that stage, of course, we didn't know that we would still be virtual. And I don't think I ever worked quite so hard in my life for a sustained period of time. You've written a book, so you know what it's like.
Oh, it's a lot of work.
Lonely work, 8 to 10 hours every day. I think week 1, I took Sunday off. And then I looked at my little bit I'd written, and I looked at where I had to go. And I said, that's it. There is no more downtime. And so I actually made the deadline. It was the 31st of July, and the book was finished. And little did I know that the hard work was only just beginning, because then we had to make sure that the book was laid out well.
Yep.
Because you've got a lot of graphics, and you've got to display the graphics well, otherwise there's no point. But, something else which was a little bit serendipitous, I've taught English for years. I was a communications lecturer in South Africa for 19 years, and I've gardened since I was 11. Notice I'm not saying how many years ago that was. 3 things came together. And when I was writing the book, it felt like I'd been in training for it all.
That's right.
Totally. And we did all our own editing. And my husband and I heard horror stories from some of my friends, and oh my God, they were so sick of seeing their husbands, because everybody was 24/7. And we actually ended up working brilliantly together.
And isn't that so much fun that you had that experience? Even, I'm sure you've probably been married for some time, but yet you had a new experience together.
It was totally new. It doesn't mean we always saw eye to eye, but I had someone I could bounce ideas off. He did some of the research. He helped with the editing.
That's awesome.
There when I needed to vent, which it
of course
happens.
Of course.
And then he also, by that time, of course, we were going through Michelle's program. And part of it is developing a back end. You want to have a website platform as well, not just the book. That would have been the easy part. So while I was doing this, he was working on the book, and I was helping a bit with, he was helping with the website, I beg your pardon. And I was doing some of the design as well for that. And so, because I realized that one of the things for a beginner gardener, it's overwhelming. You've got masses and masses of wonderful tools and supplies. But if you don't know what they are, how can you buy them? So what we've done is we've created a store, and people will walk in, and they're essentially aisles, and they'll go down the fertilizer aisle, or they go down the seed aisle, and they get all the supplies they need there, etc. We've also created garden coaching.
Oh, look at that.
A little hand holding. Michelle was our sounding board because she wasn't a gardener, so she was
Right.
fun, to work off. What else we got? But then, of course, while the book was being set out and typeset, I was working on the blog, which I have to say is quite time consuming. I aimed initially to get a blog out maybe every 2 weeks. It's sort of gone to about 3. And occasionally I throw in a recipe because the last chapter in our book is from garden to table with
Right.
my son, the great ardent baker and cook, with my signature recipes from using garden produce from
That
the
is
garden,
awesome.
lemons, spinach, salad, whatever it
Yep.
might be.
That
And
is awesome. So Wendy, what is the website?
It's wendysgardenstore.com.
That is awesome.
And
That is awesome. So you wrote the book, you have the website, you launched the website. So now, all right, so fast forward.
Now we're up to the launch date, which is, October 12th, the book finally went live. One didn't know how many steps were involved. And then Michelle actually did the 2-day promotion in November, early November. And it was amazing. She's promoted about 200 books, and it's the top-selling best book that she's ever done.
Oh my goodness! Congratulations!
It's very exciting. It is people describe it, use an analogy, and say it's like a baby. But
I call my book a labor of love because it is like having a baby.
And there's times when you didn't want it either.
Yes. So Wendy, let me ask you now. Okay, so you went through this whole experience. Obviously, it's glorious, and you had a successful birthing of this new baby. What would you not remember? If we took out the magic wand, what would you not change? Like literally, what would you, if you had to go back, what would you say? I've learned this now. I want to take this with me, and I want to continue on this path, even if everything went back to traveling to South Africa and going to school, not virtually.
Well, we really are still on that same path. The website continues. The blog has a life of itself. The Facebook group, Containers and Raised Bed Gardening, people ask all sorts of weird and wonderful questions, which I try and answer. And it's, already people are saying, well, what's your next book going to be? I don't know. You're on your second one.
I'm on my second one. Yep.
And I'm sort of got something at the back of my mind, maybe going more into the recipe side. But, if I look back, I just think, wow, sometimes you have to leap in and take a chance. And it was, I hate to use the garden analogy all the time, but when life hands you lemons, make lemonade, I was blessed.
Agree.
I really was.
Agree. Well, that is awesome. And congratulations on the book, and congratulations on all of it, the website, the Facebook page, all of that. And I can even admit, even at my house, we were gardening. We've never gardened, and we were doing exactly the same thing. So yes, it was perfect timing, and it is all about that timing. So great advice. All right, bye. Let's hear it. Let's hear what changed. How did you adapt? What lessons did you learn? And what would you not change? Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Hi, Laura. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I started my virtual assistant business in 2019. So I started as a virtual assistant, and I had my 9 to 5. So I was doing my VA business on the side. That's the one thing I wouldn't have changed. And I feel like the pandemic and the shutdown, I was like the first one to get laid off from my job. It was a blessing, because then it helped me to like go all in on my business.
Oh, wow. So, okay. So you were doing it on the side. Then obviously the pandemic hit, and you were one of the people, unfortunately, that their job was negatively affected, but that was an opportunity to lean in. And just like Wendy said, right? So an opportunity to lean in during a scary time and make a positive change. So now, Baya, I know a little bit about your story because you mentioned it to me. So tell me what you did. And you started out as a virtual assistant, but you took that further and you went in another direction. So please share that.
So I still help online business owners who want to set up the back end systems of their business. I help with that. I do more of like the systems and the SOPs. But I also mentor VAs who are struggling to start their business. I feel it's like a shift of mindset of employee to entrepreneur. And when I did it, I was like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. They just need somebody to encourage them and to give them the right strategies and the right steps to take. So
I love
definitely.
that. And you said something to me the other night that is very, very astute that you said that. You said, I was going around and I was helping people and I was giving them advice, but because it was free and because I was just randomly saying it, nobody really executed or took it upon themselves to take it to the next level. So instead you said, well, you know, this is my time and your expertise. So instead you turned it into a program and a way that people can hire you to learn those steps. And by doing that, it changed the entire dynamic. And you made it so that now you're coaching them and teaching them how to do it. And because people are investing, right? They're investing in themselves. They take it serious and they hold themselves accountable to actually say, oh, I got to pay attention and I have to follow this. So what have you seen? Have you seen them be successful in, you know, so what happens next? Does the mind shift happen?
Yeah. I feel like when they are still in that scarcity mindset, it's always, they're afraid of failure, afraid of, you know, rejection. So they don't take any action. But when you do take action, you realize it's not that scary. Even if you do fail, you just know that you need to tweak and then just keep moving forward.
I love that. That is a very, very big lesson. And one of those lessons. So, okay. So you made it through. And I guess, like you said, the thing you wouldn't change is, even though, listen, in 2019, if somebody said to you, hey, Vi, you're going to lose your job, you would probably be like, whoa, no, I need my job. I've got bills to take care of here. You would have been very scared. But yet that shift, and although it was unfortunate, it put you in another direction that now you feel is the right path.
Yes.
That is awesome.
I feel like everything happens for us, not to us.
That's actually in my book. I literally have something that life does not happen to you. It happens for you. That's actually in my book. Wow, look at that. We're on the same page there. Love it. All right, Camille, let's hear about it. Let's hear what changed. Let's hear what you went through and then what you would not change.
So I laugh a little bit because this week, a year ago, I was leaving Las Vegas from our last women's conference. I had started a new role and moved actually into diversity and inclusion and from a business role after being in my company for 14 years. And it was a legacy decision that I made to help to advance the progress. I had no idea, none of us would, what was going to happen in the year to come. And so this was really the last crowning opportunity with the conference to meet with other amazing Black women and talk about what we could be doing to advance their careers. And then now we were starting to get the shutdown, no more travel, with the pandemic. We were traveling still without masks and all that because it was very early on, but came back and was then told, okay, there's no more travel. We had potential exposure. And so I was quarantining because again, we were still early on in understanding the virus. And so that was just really a crazy period. And initially I naively thought, oh, we'll be home, 30, 60, 90 days max. And, pass through this and we'll be fine. And, now a year later to the date, we're still kind of sojourning through this. And what was challenging was I feel like I went through the stages of grief, right? Just kind of trying to get used to being at home all the time and I like being at home, but I don't like being at home when somebody tells me I have to be at home. And so that was tough. And just really getting used to that environment and in a new role. right? And then here comes now, unfortunately, Ahmaud Arbery, who got killed.
Yeah.
And then right after that, George Floyd. And
Yeah.
then it's like a light turned on in terms of needing to respond to our employees,
Yeah.
make sure we're providing avenues for people to have conversation. And I wouldn't change any of that, because I feel like I was divinely put into a place to help lead through that effort. And I had some, the person that I took the job from, my predecessor, she had recommended me, for the role. And so I feel like everything was divinely placed, and we were able to have conversations that people said we would never have. So when I think about the superpower, I knew.
Don't jump to the superpower.
Yeah,
Hold that.
I'll just say one trait.
Okay.
I'll say one trait is really about the intuition, right? Because you know that you have things placed inside of you for a reason. And so I mentioned that because it was needed to engage with colleagues and having conversations about your experiences that you would never have, like in what we would call mixed company, because you feel like people wouldn't have the level of empathy, understanding, and listening. And so there was a lot of vulnerability that it brought out for myself and other colleagues to talk about the elephant in the room.
Yes.
And so when I think about the necessary healing that we still have to go through as a society, I'm glad that it happened, because it provided, I think, a way for people to see differently what's been happening in our nation. And whatever your beliefs are, wherever you are looking at this kind of humanitarian crisis, I think that COVID has just made everybody slow down enough so you can actually see what's happening. And then secondarily, when I think, by the time I got to September, well, if I'm going to be home, let me at least organize it and clean it up. And so, was able to focus on that. And I think some of that cleaning was cathartic, because by then I was numb, from going through the process. And so I started to engage with mental health professionals just to help start to unpack that, right? Because there are things and stories and experiences that you have that, frankly, you start to invalidate yourself, that did this really happen, or was this something, because it becomes so much a part of your awareness as a person of color, just how you navigate the world, that unpacking that sometimes becomes so real, and in some cases very triggering, right? And so being someone that's a healer, I could feel that even for my colleagues who were having, I would say, some PTSD from having that conversation, and then trying to now navigate work from home. How am I still going to produce at work? And so I think it's been amazing, frankly, because it's just, again, helping us to uncover the level of urgency that we have around diversity, not just ethnic diversity, but even around gender, the power of women, as we see around the room today. There's so many things when we think about the intersection that we need to continue having the dialogue, so that we're continuing to create empathy, with one another, and seeing how we can help create a more equitable future.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of work on the women empowerment side, and then I'm also the chair of another organization that has to do with minorities in banking. And the one that hit me the most, because I do a lot of interviewing like this to hear people's stories, because I believe we all learn when you hear other voices.
Yes.
We all need to hear other voices. Right?
Yes.
And one gentleman, an African American man, said to me, Laura, I had to learn how to speak your language because I was the only, right? And we've been there, right? We've all been the only, right? At some point or another, right? And he said, it's very exhausting to try to always fit in to communicating to be someone that you're not.
Yeah.
And he said, I just want to be in a world where we accept each other for whatever voice we have, whatever that is. And we don't have to try to fit to be someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know for me, again, the elephant in the room, I don't think 2 years ago we would have ever had that conversation. So
No.
just,
Yeah.
right, it would have been uncomfortable to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So Camille, I definitely think you were put in that role before the world changed, because you were capable of having the leadership and empathy and all the powers that we're going to hear, the superpower part, to be able to guide your team, your community through what was coming, which is amazing. It's just amazing. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is why I love this show. This is why you see like the depths of what you hear and how the world has changed, and yet you bring strangers together and you hear these stories. It's mind-blowing. It really is. Okay, Wendy, we're up to my superpower question. So this is the point in the show where we get to hear, and first off, everybody knows I give you guys a homework assignment of asking someone that cares about you what your special, unique gift or gifts to the world are. And please share that with us, Wendy. What did you hear?
Well, I must preface this with British descent. This is really hard to do. So I thought, well, let me ask my buddies, people of years, put it on them. So with reference to what Joni said, she referenced my creativity. She said,
Okay,
always been very creative. Louise in Australia said, whatever you take on, you master. And then when I read those, I was, it's amazing how you have memories, but you haven't thought about something in forever. And I could hear this person saying to me, God, so many years ago, that and he was talking about me, he said, you immerse yourself in whatever you do. And I think all three of those actually come together, and the underlying thing there is passion. I'm very passionate about whatever I do, whether it's dog training, gardening, cooking, whatever. I think that's
that once you take it on, you're all in, and you're going to just dive in and master it and show your passion towards it, whatever it is. I can remember
my mom saying to me a long time ago, darling, why can't we just have 6 roses like normal people? Why do we have to have 100? And that's the passion.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And that is a wonderful thing. That is a great superpower. And like you said, I guess when you put your magic on something, it blooms, whether it is gardening or whatever else it is.
I love the analogy. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, Vive, what do we have? What was that superpower or powers?
I was told empathy. And then I asked my husband, and he said, I'm good at figuring it out. Like, if there's a why, there's a way.
I like that. All right. So problem solving. Yes. Diving into whatever comes your way to figure out a way to get through it, get past it, and not be overtaken by it. All right. Yes. I like that. All right. That is very powerful. And that's great for what you're doing with the virtual assistant mentoring too. Because if you can translate that to the other people that you're guiding through, that is a fantastic gift. Oh, very good. All right, Camille. What do we have?
All right. So the 3 I'd bring forward for today is that one, I'm a truth teller. So that I consider myself a challenger in that way. It challenges people. The second is that I'm resourceful. And then the third is that I'm an empath or kind of intuitive. And so those things show up because I can just get a sense or feeling about things. And it just allows me to know if I need to take a step back and just talk to somebody before we jump into, a conversation. Or you may get I learned that if somebody's on my mind all the time, I need to pick up the phone and just call them, and most of the times it's right when you need to connect with someone. And in terms of the truth telling, it gets me in trouble because most of the times people don't want to hear the truth or the way that the truth comes, right? And so it challenges people and they feel challenged. And so sometimes that creates disconnection. So always just try to work through the intention, and they know that the intention is all love, right? And for us to get better, it just may not come wrapped in the way always that we wanted, or you can't receive it in the way that it was given. So because it challenges people, but it's a superpower. And then the last, in terms of resourcefulness, like Vi, is just figuring out the ways to get things done. You got to make a way out of no way. Wendy talked about lemons out of lemonade, lemonade out of lemons. Sometimes you're making, lemon drops, and you're trying to make, a lemon pie and whatever else you can do with those lemons, because you just have to find ways to make it work. And so those are the things that I would say I do really well.
That is awesome. And it's funny, Camille, a few years ago, I was telling someone a story, and they said to me, Laura, have you ever Googled what an empath is? Mm-hmm. I had never heard that word in my entire life until about 5 years ago. And then I watched a YouTube video, and I'm like, so you're telling me that these feelings I get when I can just tell if someone I should stay away from or someone I should stay with is actually a thing? I'm like, this is a gift. Like,
it's
this
a gift.
Is something. So it's very fascinating, because I think, especially as women, because I think all of us have some type of intuition. And I think we would all agree it's very strong, and it's something that you should not ignore, because it is a gift that a lot of times guides us to right or stay away from, this is not safe or uncomfortable or whatever. So I love that. And I appreciate that you recognize that, because it is a superpower, and it is a gift, and it is something that if you tune into it, boy, can it really guide you in your life. Yeah. Absolutely. So I do have to ask you a question. I don't know if you have children. Do you have children? Do you have kids?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, Camille, do you have kids?
No, I don't have any children. I'm blessed with a niece that's like my surrogate daughter, but no children of my own.
The reason why I ask you is that it actually gets passed down through like your generations, and you actually can ask, like, especially like your mom or your sister or whoever, like, it actually is genetic, but not everybody gets it. So
my niece definitely has it. She has it. You can tell just the way in which she behaves. She knows when to come, and she's very caring, so she knows when to come and touch you on your shoulder. She's also a truth teller. She doesn't let you get away with anything. But she will have a feeling. She got into a school program, and she told her mom, I'm going to take the test, and this is the school that I want to go to. And she just knew, so I believe that she has it. And I think we got it from my dad, because he may not be aware of it.
No, a lot of people are not.
Sometimes he'll say, I'm not trusting the vibes on that. That's just that. Nah, I don't want to go there. So he just probably not tapping into understanding the way that he naturally has it, but he uses those gifts all the time.
Yes. And that's wonderful. And it's interesting when you see where it came from.
Yeah.
And then like which people in the family have it.
Exactly.
It really is fascinating.
It is.
All right. Okay, ladies, you are awesome. You are amazing. I'm so thrilled that you are all thriving. And these stories are just, it blows my mind every single week when I hear how wonderful people have learned new lessons. And even, Camille, look at Wendy's story where going through bookmarks, right? You're going through bookmarks on a computer from 2000 and did you say 13 or 15?
13.
13, 2013. Haven't looked at it in all those years. And yet at that moment, you look at it.
Yeah.
Like that's just incredible, right? That's incredible. All right. So Wendy, it is. So at this time, I get to hear who's joining me in 2 weeks that's going to share their stories. So Wendy, who do I have the pleasure?
Her name is Sandy Nierenberg. She has a legal background, and keeping the horticultural theme, she's the founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization in the Bay Area. It's called Each Green Corner. And if I give you their goal, it will say it all: cultivating food security 1 yard at a time.
Oh, wow.
So again,
Wow.
that idea of, leveraging every spare inch that you have to produce, fruit and vegetables.
Wow. That is awesome. Can't wait to hear more about that. Okay. All right. Vi. Who do we have?
Next week, you'll meet my friend Sally Nelson. She is a premium price coach, money mindset. She's amazing. You'll love her energy.
Wow. Money mindset.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I guess everybody will definitely need that one. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, Camille, who do I have the pleasure?
So I have invited, and I'm waiting for confirmation. Jody Davis. She's a fashion designer, extraordinaire, just a wonderful creative, and has her own business and boutique. And I'd love for her to talk about her philosophy around design and fashion. I think she's absolutely amazing.
Oh, that is awesome. Hopefully she can join us.
Yeah.
I would love to hear. Well, ladies, you are amazing. We're wishing you well and to continue to thrive in everything that you do. And thank you so much for sharing your stories.
So Laura,
All the
thank you.
best.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thanks for having us, Laura.